Nearly 140 years ago, in a small village in Greenbrier County, West Virginia, 5 men handcrafted a golf course. It is here where golf history began in the United States.
Oh, this is pretty interesting. You have somebody from Massachusetts down here. You have people coming from Ceylon, and it strikes me as an indication of what the railroad did, that all those people could actually get here. Had all this been happening 30 years earlier in the 1850s, they would have been taking stagecoaches. It probably would never have happened. But by the 1880s, the railroad is complete all the way through to the Ohio River, and you can do these sort of things. I don't think any of this story could have happened without the railroad.
We read now mostly that the early golf in this country was under the auspices of St. Andrews Yonkers, 1888. And the distinction between 84 and 88 is one that has to do with the following years, because Oakhurst only stayed in business for a relatively few years until they got wind of the old white being designed by Charles Blair McDonald and at the Greenbrier.
We outdate the other golf courses totally in the United States. Mr. Montague and his group in 1884 were indeed the first golf course and the first golf actually played here. The other courses follow in history.
The game is not the question mark here. The authenticity, the historical significance is what's important. And I believe the national, and if not anything, the international golf populace should know about it, particularly the American golf populace, because we are a misled group, Americans, in the world of golf.
According to the Challenge Medal date, they started their Challenge tournament. Now, Russell recorded in a 1935 interview with the Railway magazine that they started the play in 1888, and thereafter they played for it regularly, sometimes as often as weekly, and including on 6 consecutive Christmas days. Now, we don't know the dates of those Christmas Day plays, but we know they must have been pretty hardy to go out and play golf on Christmas Day in White Sulphur Springs. It can be kind of wicked then.
6 years straight is one thing, but Christmas Day in West Virginia, let me tell you, this was some real men.
It seemed very possible to me that Oakhurst would have just faded away and literally be forgotten. But the fact that in the 20s and 30s that we had 2 18 holes on a 9-hole course, which made us a fairly large golf operation. We had this young kid, Sam Snead, who was tearing them up there in 1937, 38, and 39. So you start getting a lot of golf writers here. And Russell Montague was probably in his 80s by this point, so you could still interview him directly. And then that whole question of what's the first golf club in America comes up between us and St. Andrews up in New York.
No one seems a great deal to speak of the fact that just like football or baseball or something, there was a founding. It started in the United States right here. And without, it would have been started in St. Andrews, truly, years later. But it didn't. It started right here.
This is about history and honoring those ghosts and the Lewis Kellers and the Sam Sneads of the world.
I think it's important that you and I and everybody else knows about Oakhurst. Has an obligation, if not to anybody else, certainly to Oakhurst founders and Lewis Keller and to the state of West Virginia to talk about it, because it's a part of the history of the game we should be proud of. But it won't be in the history books unless we make sure someone talks about it.